Do you realize how famous you are this week, Johnny? Please do not bring up a TV show that I was on 9 years ago. We're trying to do a first round preview series against the Canucks here. No, 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 no. I'm talking about the NHL commercial with the fan throwing the catfish on the ice after sneaking into Bridgestone, and his name is Johnny. Oh yes, ha 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 ha. That is a good commercial. But don't get any ideas. I am not sneaking a catfish into Rogers Arena. That's if I can even get tickets to game 1 or 2. Have you seen the prices to these tickets? Preds Nation, Johnny here. Yes, some of you may be wondering why we're here. But hey, just to fill you in, we've filled out 82 fan reaction videos to 82 regular season games. The regular season is over, and guess what? The Preds clinched a playoff spot last week. And as of Wednesday night, we now know through the Stars beating the St. Louis Blues in overtime last night who the Preds' first round opponent it will be. It will be the Vancouver Canucks. It may be 13 years, but I still consider it a rematch of the 2011 second round series. And for the uninitiated, Vancouver just happens to be the city I live in. The Vancouver Canucks are the team I am exposed to every single day on my TV, on my radio, everywhere I go in this town. But yeah, I'm not a Canucks fan. I've gone through it in previous videos, and I'm not going to rehash it right now. We can do it in the future Ask Me Anything video why I never became a Canucks fan. But I'm a Preds fan. This is the life I live, and now my team has to defeat the Canucks if it hopes to advance closer to possibly winning its first ever Stanley Cup. And don't get any ideas. My allegiance stays in gold. Even if the Preds, heaven forbid, lose this series, I'm not changing allegiances and automatically rooting for the Canucks. I consider there to be 4 tiers of Preds fans. First, there's ones who have been with this team through thick and thin from day one. That includes me. Then there are those who got on board when his team first made the playoffs in its 6th season in 2004 and hung on to about the 2007-2008 season when the team went through the possible hell of moving to Hamilton. Damn you to hell, Jimbo Silly. But thank God the team stayed in Smashville. Then, third, there's the fan base that came aboard after the team was stripped down and built back up again after 2007-2008 to its prominence at the time, 2010 to 2012. And finally, the last tier of Preds fans came aboard once they went from Barry Trotz to Peter Laviolette in the 2014-2015 season that took them through their first run to the Stanley Cup, their first President's Trophy, their back-to-back division titles, leading to last year, the first time in that span that they missed the playoffs entirely, even though some of us who argue the schematics say that the bubble season counts as not making the playoffs. But I digress. As for the team now facing the Canucks and the team that faced the Canucks back in 2011, as for the Preds side of things, there's only really one person who has been there both times, and it's not a player. It's one person who went from the coaching bench to the front office, now general manager Barry Trotz. Preds, of course, lost that series in 6 games, and I had to endure from time to time over the last 13 years, points and laughs, ha 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 ha, at the enjoyment of Canucks fans around me, at my job, and through light barbs, through friendships. If it wasn't for Ryan Kesler basically taking over that series, especially that overtime with that chicken wing where he got Shea Weber sent to the box, and I think Ryan Kesler may have even scored the overtime winning goal. If it wasn't for Kesler, and we know how much of a pain in the ass he was when he went on to play for Anaheim against Nashville, not for Kesler when he was on the Canucks, maybe the Preds pull an upset and win that in 7 games. What I have to remember from that series, and what you should remember from that series that is 13 years in the past and try to move on, is that Matt Halischuk got the double overtime winner in Game 2, and Joel Ward owned the show in Game 5. But on to this season. Coming into this season, nobody really picked the Canucks or the Preds coming into 2023, 2024 to do anything much less make the playoffs. And focusing on the Preds, I think the experts who thought the Preds would squeak into the playoffs, you could count them on one hand. Near to the end of last season, both the Preds and the Canucks had front office and coaching changes, with both teams starting this season off with coaches on clean slates with their first full season under their belt with their respective teams. Canucks coach Rick Tocchet, you may remember, was coach of the Arizona Coyotes when they eliminated the Preds in the bubble in Edmonton in the 2012 playoffs. Canucks coach Rick Tocchet took over controversially at the time for Bruce Boudreau, but it has turned out to be the correct decision for the Canucks. And as we all are well aware, Andrew Brunette, who is the first Predator in franchise history to score a goal in a regular season game, is the Preds' fourth coach in franchise history. These two men did a great job with their respective teams and honestly should be recognized when the Jack Adams for Best Coach of the Year voting comes out. These two, I don't want to hear another argument. It should be 1-2 in voting. During regular season play this year in the season series, the Canucks swept the Preds 3-0 with a score of 3-2 and two scores of 5-2, the last one coming in Bridgestone, December 19th, 2023. Did you hear the year I just said there? 2023. This is a completely different Preds team than the last time the Canucks played them. So I don't want anyone to automatically get scared if you're a Preds fan or thinking that this is going to be a cakewalk if you somehow found this and you're a Canucks fan. The Preds seem to have really bought into Andrew Brunette's system, have turned things around after their slow season start, and I can bet you if they actually played the Canucks once or twice more after that last December 19th, 2023 result, the Preds might have indeed won both games. To back up what I am saying, after a 3-2 loss at home November 18th, 2023 to the Anaheim Ducks, the Preds had a record of 5-10. Do you realize what their record has been since that result? 42-20-5. Imagine what the Preds' total record would be if you took that record over the last 67 games and projected it over an 82-game schedule. Also, a stat that tells me the Preds are going to have a chance in this series is that since the NHL All-Star break, in expected goals for, if you follow those analytical stats, the Preds are third in the league in that category. I'm not an expert on analytics, but that sounds like a pretty good stat to me. Also, to double down on that stat, the Canucks are not one of those two teams ahead of them. Now, head-to-head in this series, let's take game breakers, for example. The Canucks have more of them. JT Miller, Elias Pettersson, Brock Besser, and Quinn Hughes on defense, who's a very gifted offensive defenseman. Will the Preds have spaghetti and meatballs on that killer first line of Ryan O'Reilly, Phil Forsberg, and a surprising Gustav Nyquist, and of course our captain Roman Josi? The supporting cast for the Preds doesn't get as much points, but they're still very helpful on the Preds, and being in a market like Nashville, they just don't get the recognition and notice like the Canucks supporting cast does. The Canucks have a slight edge on the blue line because outside of Roman Josi and two-time Stanley Cup winner Ryan McDonagh, and Tampa Bay is missing him, you can tell, the Canucks have the edge in playmakers back there on the blue line in their sixth. As for specialty teams, the Canucks have the 10th best power play in the league at 22.5. The Preds not far behind at 12th with 21.6. As for penalty killing, the Canucks are 20th in the league at 78.8, and the Preds are 22nd at 76.9. Now, the one position I think the Preds have an advantage of in this series is in goal with UC Saros. Now I know for Canucks fans who may be watching this video right now, they're screaming at their monitors, Thatcher Demko, Thatcher Demko. Yes, outside of UC Saros' slow starts, he comes on really strong, finishes the season strong, and can be something else. I'm not sure with Thatcher Demko's injury that kept him out, 6 weeks? And he played against Calgary the other day. Did he play against Winnipeg? I'd have to check on that. I don't know how fresh he's going to be for this playoff series. So if it comes down to a matter of who's better in goal, I'm giving the edge to number 74. Yes, I know Thatcher Demko has the bubble, taking the Canucks to the second round against Vegas. That wasn't in front of fans. Let's go back to when the Preds played the Hurricanes 3 seasons ago. Game 3, 4, 5, and 6 all went to overtime, and if the puck luck goes slightly different Saros' way, Preds could have very well upset the Hurricanes in that first round. The one thing I would give advantage to for Canucks fans who are listening to this, and for Preds fans to be a little concerned about, I don't think the Preds are going to be able to win games in a boat race. If the Canucks can get pucks by Saros, get under his skin, get him frustrated, they will win games easily. But if games are in the second or third period 2-1 Canucks, 2-2, 3-2 Canucks, or 3-2 Preds, Preds are going to win those series down the stretch in those dying moments in the third period. And as we know, the refs just don't call games the same way in the playoffs as they do in a regular season. Would I prefer the Preds to stay out of the box as much as possible? Sure, but I'm not too afraid of Cole Smith, Michael McCarron, and Keither Sherwood, the runner muckers who can also pot a key goal now and then on that Preds fourth line, going out and being bleep disturbers, trying to get the Canucks off their game. Lastly, as we all know, historically, the Preds have been one of the better teams in the league, playoffs or regular season, on home ice at Bridgestone Arena. Well, that wasn't the case this season. The Preds still finished a respectable 23-16-2 on Bridgestone Arena ice, while the Canucks finished 27-9-5 on Rogers Arena ice. As for the road record of both of these teams are equally road warriors, as the Preds had a road record of 24-14-3, while the Canucks had a road record of 23-14-4. So pretty well even there. And I'm going to be curious to see what happens to the series as a whole as of game 1, because I don't have the time or the fan knowledge to know what the Canucks record is winning game 1 or not. But for the Preds, they have only lost 2 series in their history after losing game 1. It was 2006 against the Sharks, and then 2010 against the eventual Stanley Cup winning Blackhawks. But on the other hand, this is something you'll probably be hearing about if the Canucks win game 1. But I gotta think the Preds are due to break this streak. Believe it or not, the Preds are 0-13 winning playoff series if they lose game 1. They have never won a playoff series after losing game 1 on Bridgestone Arena ice or in another team's building. Eventually, that streak is going to snap. So don't play with fire, I would recommend to the Canucks, the team. Probably not watching this, but the fan base, just keep that in mind for this series, okay? So, where does that leave us? Yes, prediction time. Back in 2017, when I first started this channel that I would eventually name Predemption, I did it after doing a fan reaction to the end of the Arizona-LA game, which Arizona won in LA, helping the Preds clinch a playoff spot. And then the second video I think I did for this channel, you'd have to go back 7 years ago and confirm, is a Chicago Blackhawks Preds preview video for that first round matchup that spring. And I went unconventional and predicted the Preds in 6. Boy, was I wrong. I gave the Blackhawks way too much credit that they would win 2 games. Now, having finished the 5th season of Preds fan reaction videos, it's time for me to make a prediction on another Preds playoff series, a playoff series that I am legitimately excited for. I wasn't excited for the Colorado Nashville one 2 years ago that the Preds barely scraped into, that I knew they would be lucky to maybe pull out a game. But as we've all known, watching this team this season, this team is the most excited we've been since the President's Trophy season 2017-2018. The Preds have a chance in this series. I have a good feeling I'm going to enjoy this series. Perhaps the Preds and Canucks both win a game on each other's ice. I could see that in this series. But when it comes down to it, through thick and thin, and one team's going to have a lot of stress on their back, even though they didn't make the playoffs last year and probably weren't expected to do it. Well, now they have stress on them because they're the second best team in the Western Conference. And we've got this other team over here that has a lot of skill, can catch you off guard just like that. And they're the first wild card. They're going to be playing with house money. And I think they do it. I think the Preds win this series in 7 games. And watch out, this series could be one of the most entertaining of the first round. And in closing, there is one more thing I feel I need to address and make people aware of that seems to come up every spring when the Preds make the playoffs. And before I rant about it, I will point out the Preds are not the only team that does it. It came to the attention of Canucks media like Irfan Gurfar, who is from Vancouver. Preds are getting right into the playoff spirit early. They know how well Canucks fans travel. And my reaction is, yeah, so what? This is an issue. Why? Preds are completely within their right to do it, as they want to ensure a home ice advantage in game 3, 4, and 6. If through Ticketmaster or any secondary ticket site, they don't allow a credit card outside the area of like Tennessee, Kentucky, Alabama, Mississippi, and Georgia, that is completely within their right to do so. I've seen complete other teams do it in hockey and other sports. I've got 3 things to say to any Canucks fans who may have an issue with this. Not all of you do. Some of you completely understand it. But for those who do, and for any hockey fan who may have an issue moving forward in future seasons, the Preds will do this again and again because they can, because it is their right to do so. And guess what, everybody? Every single Preds home game this spring, they will still sell out without the opposing fans being in the arena in as large of numbers. Deal with it! So that is it for this video. Thank you very much for watching as always. Click like if you liked this video. Click subscribe if you really liked it. And keep an eye out on this video because I will include the series schedule as it becomes known. Game 1 is tentatively scheduled for Sunday night, 9 o'clock Eastern, 7 o'clock Pacific. Make sure you can click on the channel name and find all my social media where you can interact with me during every single Preds game, especially with the playoffs on the horizon. Tell all your friends about Redemption and tell all your friends that Game 1, Vancouver versus Nashville in Rogers Arena in Vancouver, BC is almost here.